All right, up next on the podcast is Kristy Yoshikawa from Kapi'olani Community College. Kristy is a nursing counselor at the college with the goal to support, unify, celebrate, and advocate for students in the areas of academic advising, career exploration, and mental health. Kristy earned her BA from University of Hawaii at Manoa and master's in psychology from Chaminade University. While originally having the intention of working with children and teens, Kristy ultimately was drawn to the community college environment. Kristy has served as a trio counselor, health science and EMS counselor, and now as a nursing counselor. Kristy also serves on the NACADA Region 9 Steering Committee as the Hawaii liaison, which also includes Guam, American Samoa, and the Northern Mariana Islands. Welcome, Kristy.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, so I know we were chatting about being on the podcast. We got to see each other in Portland and as part of the Region 9 Steering Committee. So it's great to have you and get to chat with you a little bit more. Because even though we've been on the steering committee, I think we're going to find out more about you than I've found out over the last couple of years. Because it's something about being in meetings, and you can only talk so much in those meetings. So, first question we usually throw out is, tell us about your path, your journey into higher ed and academic advising.
Well, yeah, thank you again for that awesome intro. Podcasting is new to me, so I have to apologize if I stumble. But basically how I got started in my higher education career, I worked at Kapiolani Community College as an undergraduate, working on they called it a home ec degree, but it's a human development and family studies bachelor's. I received a bachelor's of arts. During that time in my undergraduate, I did do my internship or my practicum at a middle school. It's called Central Middle School here on Oahu. Predominantly, it's a Title III school, so there's a lot of housing kids that attend that middle school, and so it was a great experience, a learning experience. I got to work with the counselors, the school counselors there, and that's what kind of drove my interest into school counseling. Currently on Oahu, Chaminade University is the only accredited university that provides training for the DOE or Department of Ed in Hawaii. So Chaminade was my first choice and only choice to get my master's in psychology with a school counseling emphasis. During that time, I still continue to work at Kapiolani Community College. I work with in the nursing department there. As we call it a casual hire. It's like a part-time position. But there I worked with the counselors because they knew I was interested in counseling. So they really took me under their wing, and I kind of, developed that academic advising part of it. I learned more about the college itself, the community college, that aspect, and even a university, being a university student of UH Manoa. I learned that whole transition process. So my own journey, in my educational journey, kind of mirrored my whole career, I guess, because I started out at KCC, or Kapiolani Community College, then transferred to UH Manoa, and then from there I got my master's at another private institution on the island. So very fortunate that my educational pathway was pretty clear. It's just that professional side of it, I started getting glimpses of what it would be like to be as a middle school or high school counselor in the DOE, and what it would be like as a community college counselor with Kapiolani. And so that really shaped how my master's program went. I still graduated with a master's in psychology with school counseling emphasis. And that was just so I had the option if I wanted to continue it, in the high school or at a middle school or even elementary school on the island. But I found that I like kids, but being in, that level and that complexity, and even reflecting now, social media wasn't a thing when I was back in the day. So now to see it play out during the pandemic, during, everything, I'm like, that's a whole nother layer, a whole nother year of education that I think I should, or, professional development that I would need in order to navigate through counseling with that generation, right? And that time of their lives and their developmental stages, and how that social media and its social influence impacts them. So from there, I made the decision to kind of continue on. After graduation, I still worked at Kapiolani Community College as in the same role, helping the advisors. I took on a little bit more responsibility as far as working with college students and doing health documentation for nursing and clinicals and all that fun stuff. But then I had a couple kids in between, got married, and then when the job posting was up, or when it was time for me to get a real job, I looked at KCC, and so fortunately we had a TRIO student support services position open. If you don't know what that is, it's a federally funded grant program that focuses on low income first generation college students and students with disabilities. And from there, I just got immersed with the college, got a faculty, a real job. And, I found it like a glorified high school counselor. So that's why I was so drawn to that position. And after we had a health science and EMS position open up, they needed a temporary coverage. So I was applied for that one, or got asked to fill that position. And then nursing opened up a year later, and here I am. So I've been with the nursing department at Kapiolani for the past 8 months, since March. But really, I've been with them for about 7 years prior. So it's like coming home.
Yeah, but talk about being like in the right place at the right time. And a lot of the work experience that you were getting, you didn't know that was going to lead to where you're at now with some of these positions that came up. So you just never know what's going to happen. And that's, I love that part.
Right. And it just how I got the job here as an undergraduate was my auntie. She was a nursing department chair, and well, in Hawaii we call aunties like our friends, our Calabash cousins, or so she wasn't my real auntie, but my brother's friend of an aunt, his mom was here, and so she asked me if I needed a job, and I was like, sure. And that's it's timing. A lot of it's timing and luck, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just remember my at Cal State San Bernardino, I was a student assistant in admissions, and once I graduated, I was looking for jobs and applying everywhere, couldn't find one, and I just happened to just call my supervisor one day just to check in and see how things are going, not asking like, hey, can I get a job? Just literally say, how's it going? And she's like, well, it's funny you call because I'm moving to this other department, so my job's going to be up, if you want me to put a good word in for you, let me know. And it was like,
awesome,
perfect timing. Yeah. So you never know what's going to happen. So always look out for those opportunities and see what happens. But yeah, I was kind of thinking about when you're talking about social media, like, I'm glad that I didn't have social media when I was in high school. I don't know how people survive now with that. I was so used to just using the payphone, not having a cell phone, not being on my phone, like scrolling social media all the time and seeing what's the new thing to wear, or who's the popular. It's like I had enough of that just without social media.
Even Googling stuff was not a thing when I was in school.
We had to go to the library.
Yes, a library. I don't know if they know what that is, but not the computer library, but like a book library. So yeah, that's another.
Pull out the drawer, look for the different card to see where it's at in the library, and go find the book. And then most of the times, like, it was misplaced. Fun times.
Back in the day.
Yeah. And that's how we know we've reached that age when we say back in the day.
Back in the day when I was young, which is not that long ago, I want to say. But yeah, technology has just added a whole new layer to counseling and advising and just in general, I think.
Yeah, and I remember, we were talking prior to the podcast, and you were mentioning right now about like, working with kids and then realizing, well, maybe I don't necessarily want to, work with kids like all day, and found yourself with the college students. But I think you were also mentioning that you found like some of it also restrictive regarding like the school schedule and limitations, right?
I mean, you as a school, working for the Department of Ed, you have to be at your site by 7:30, 7:45. Not that was a problem. It's just that, and you couldn't leave campus. You know what I mean? You had to stay there the whole time. And even for the curriculum aspect of it, I feel with TRIO, we could create, we can program, right? We can create our own programming. But for the DOE, we have to stay within our boundaries, and money is always such an issue, especially for the public school system. And so having that freedom to create programming for your students and have it reach a vast amount of students, that I felt that was what was I was missing in that in that atmosphere. So,
Yeah, so definitely a lot more flexibility and a little bit more freedom in positions that we have right now.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. So, you're mentioning being at Kapi'olani Community College. So, how would you describe your institution?
So Kapiolani Community College, we are a 2-year, I guess you can consider us 2-year institution, although a lot of students, and including myself, find this here longer than 2, like 4 or 6 if you're on that plan. So we're a 2-year institution generally. We offer liberal arts degrees for transfer mostly to our University of Hawaii or University of Manoa or UH Hilo or any other campus university within the island chain or even mainland or outside. And we also focus on CTE programs like nursing. We have a health science programs, over 10 different health science programs here. EMS or emergency medical services. We do EMT training and paramedic training. We're the only ones that are offered on the island or throughout the island chain. We also have a culinary arts program. It focused on certificates and also obtaining an associate's degree in culinary arts with the hopes to transfer to our University of West Oahu, also on the same island, but on a separate campus from our Manoa campus. Yeah, we have a population. We hope to get up to the 8,000s. We're kind of bordering that now. We took a pretty big hit during the pandemic. I think everybody felt that. But now our numbers are slowly growing, especially with our online. We have a big distance education program or liberal arts degree. So yeah, we're moving along, and so we're the only 2-year nursing program, probably on the island for sure, and within our island chain, and maybe even in this region. I feel so pretty sought after. But I think that's about it. I mean, what else to go over? There's so much different aspects of our college. We are on outlooking Diamond Head. We're on natural historical land for the island. We're named after Queen Kapi'olani. She focused on physical and medical endeavors throughout her reign as a queen. And so we have a hospital named Kapi'olani, and that's why we kind of focus on our health sciences and our nursing and our EMS programs, because of Queen Kapi'olani's dream and her manifestations of how we should protect and support all Native Hawaiians and Hawaiians of the island. So
yeah, I love the history behind it and just how everything really is connected, to that. And then your role right now, you're one of the nursing counselors. So what exactly does your role entail, like in your day-to-day?
Oh, well, we assist with pre-nursing students, so students who are interested in nursing and becoming a nursing student. Give them all the ins and outs, how to get into the program, application process, prerequisite courses, so all that onboarding or all that fun stuff. We also partake in first year and returning student onboarding process, so getting them registered for the right classes. And we also work with our current nursing students. So I think we have 4 different programs that we offer within the nursing field. Each program, we do all the application processing, collection, reviewing, and then selection. And then with our current nursing students who are already in the program, we help out with curriculum as far as getting it passed through accreditation. We work as community college faculty as well, so we have to sit on all those great committees and do all that committee work. What else do we do? We do outreach with the high schools. We do have a high school program here at KCC, but we also assist them with nursing specifics, or nursing students or interested nursing students. We also work out within the community. So we have a lot of returning adults, or we call it transfer adults, that are interested in coming to KCC or getting their their RN licensure. So yeah, I'm pretty busy with all that stuff.
Sounds like it seems like every day is a new adventure. Seems like
Yes,
where
yes,
you might be working with the actual nursing students, and then 2 appointments later, it's someone who's wanting to get into nursing, and
right.
then maybe the next day is like, now I need to go. I'm recruiting at a high school.
So it's like, I mean, it's not exact opposite, but kind of opposite of that DOE structure, right? Like,
Yeah.
not one day is the same. So and with pertaining to my undergrad, I'm so glad that I got to experience both sides, because without not knowing what I didn't want, I would never have been here or would got here. So it's very fortunate, my journey.
Yeah, and so like speaking of nursing, like when I think of like advising conferences, there's always seems to be like a nursing presentation, and about like how they navigate their students and onboard them, or how they have pre-nursing students that don't get into nursing, and how do they help those students. So I guess like when you have, let's say, a student that's interested in nursing, I know like every student is going to be different, but like let's say you have the student that maybe is like won't make it into the program based off like grades, like their the classes that they've taken, or the conversation you've had. But let's say they're like solely set on doing nursing. Like what's that typical conversation like, and helping them navigate and understanding all of that?
Well, from the start, as a pre-nursing student, we always emphasize, and there's rumors, that it's competitive program. We take the top 10% of all of the applicants. So there's that added layer of pressure on getting good grades, and unfortunately, that's just how it plays out. But from the start, we always encourage students to have a plan B or a parallel plan, right? So not nursing, what else? What drives you? Why do you want to be a nurse? A lot of times students I care about people.
Right.
I want to help people. Oh, well, there's so many professions. You could become a counselor. You know what I mean? There's so many different professions that we can help with. And then, it's going from opening their eyes and providing them different options, especially within our college. We have 10 different health science programs that maybe not as competitive, but they still get to help people. Maybe not in the capacity of a nurse, but we have our respiratory care program, our radiological tech program. So there's various different health sciences that a lot of times the courses that they have already taken can apply to that program as well. So for myself, have worked in the health science department and the EMS, it's so helpful for when I work with those students, so I can automatically be referring them to these other programs, which have the same skills, maybe and the same qualities of being caring and wanting to help,
right.
but just a little different view. And and having that option, I think, is always something that I think students really look for. And then being realistic, like, you can I'll try my best, or we can try our hardest to get into a program, but sometimes it doesn't work out. So what are your options? What are your other options? And working, I think, at your presentation for the AAPI students, right? Their barriers or what they face. A lot of it is family driven. And in Hawaii, I mean, I still live with my family, and I plan to die with to have them.
Yeah.
So we are very family centered, and so everything that what I see with a lot of our students is that I'm doing this for my family, or I'm doing it for myself, but also more so for my family to help support, and so for those students, that's a little bit harder, because there's that added layer of making sure that their basic needs are being met. And I think it was highlighted during COVID, when we were on lockdown. I don't know about you guys, but Hawaii was locked down. We couldn't leave the house unless we had a good reason, and only one person could go. And so we would send our significant others out into the wild to go to the grocery store. So that's how, our basic needs weren't being met. And for our students, their basic needs have to be met before they can be a student or be a good student.
Right.
So I think for us, that's it's a little bit harder harder choices to be made. And so for that, we definitely turn to we have a career um, workforce, a Hawaii career workforce page that we refer students to, and it shows them how much money they can make in this position. And unfortunately, nursing, not unfortunately, but fortunately and unfortunately, nursing, you can make a lot of money right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
Salary wise. And so everyone is kind of drawn, and there's definitely stability in this job as well. So they're always drawn to that nursing part of it. But if you can show them another job, you can, another position, another CTE career that maybe they didn't even think about or realize, and it just helps them make that decision a little bit easier. But definitely still hard when you don't get what you're so passionate about. But a lot of times students, they pull through and they make it in, and there's different pathways. So we have our traditional ADN program, and then we have our kind of a ladder position pathway to get to nursing. And so some students opt that route instead. It's less competitive, less money wise. So when we do advising, I definitely have to take into consideration the cost, because cost of living is so high in Hawaii. That's just a big driving factor for a lot of the students, whether they continue on with the program or if it's even on their radar.
Yeah, well, it seems like that the students that you're meeting with, like, they're not necessarily just thinking about major and career. They're like, well, I need to have the money piece of it just because cost is so high. But then a lot of them also might have that cultural piece in terms of like their background, their family, and like the needs of them, and then the pressures that they have. So it seems like, it's good that like when you're talking to them about like the different options, that it's like, well, these classes can transfer to this other area. And here's this site, and here you can see how much this can make. So at least that is information they can share with their family too, and be like, oh, okay, yeah,
that's okay.
That. Yeah,
you can do that. It's okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking like with so I work with a lot of undecided exploratory students, and so like our nursing program here, if a student didn't meet the impaction criteria through admissions, they're not even allowed to ever do pre-nursing at our institution. And so for a lot of them, it's like a surprise to them when they come to orientation, and it's like, oh, I should be as a nursing major, and they're listed as undecided. And it's like, well, now I have to give them this, bad news orientation when it's supposed to be like super excited for them to be there. But it's like, oh, I got to be realistic with them. But then it's kind of like what you're doing, kind of give them some options. Like, well, we do, there's the transfer option. There's potentially coming back for a master's in nursing, the community college, and transfer back to us, and then, and then, hey, there's other medical opportunities outside of nursing that is still connected to that. So yeah, and they hopefully feel better with that, but I know it's a punch to the gut in a sense,
Right.
But like you said, students, they definitely are resilient.
Yes.
Yeah. And in being at a community college, you probably also work up with a lot of students that end up transferring and going to a 4-year. And I know like it's, it seems like a lot of schools, a lot of states are very different in their transfer process. Do you feel like there's like a nice like streamlined process for students to go to a community college and then transfer to a 4-year?
Well, funny for our graduating nursing students, we actually have what we call a consortium curriculum that we've worked out with their University of Hawaii at Manoa. And where they automatically accept all of our associate's degree in nursing graduates. They just need to have a few more liberal arts requirements, like gen ed courses completed, and then they're eligible. So as long as they pass it, go through our program, pass the NCLEX exam, become licensed, they're eligible to start in that fall semester or the following fall semester in the UH Manoa program to get their bachelor's degree in nursing. We've also had that same curriculum with UH Hilo, so it's on the Big Island, on our island chain, and so they also offer a BSN program where same curriculum, they take our same graduates. They do need a few other requirements, but again, they are able to go to so that's their seamless transfer to those universities to get their bachelor's degree. So I think it works out. It's great. It works out wonderful. We have I don't want I say majority of our graduates, our associate's degree nursing graduates, will move on to get their bachelor's degree in nursing. So that's very hopeful. It is in high demand at our hospitals, as far as they call it magnet hospitals, where they want at least 80% of their graduate or their nursing staff to have a bachelor's degree. So it's been very helpful for our students. But as far as our liberal arts students, or even the undecided students that move on to UH Manoa, we do have different programs that assist them to get their bachelor's degree. I think it's a lot of it's more so transitioning from 2-year to 4-year, from small pond to big pond for our students. I think that's where the hardest issues are. But as far as the actual curriculum and credit transfers, it's pretty seamless from our community colleges to the universities on Oahu. I can't say that for students coming from the mainland or coming to KCC.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult just because of the high volume, right? I don't. There's just so many interested students and just not enough staff and counselors to assist them all. So we're working on that.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
It's always a work in progress. Yeah.
But I like hearing about like kind of like this almost guarantee that with like the nursing students that it's like, hey, just take these extra few classes for the liberal arts side of it, and you're almost guaranteed to get into the 4-year to UH Manoa.
And I think we're lucky because we are on an island, so there's not other options, right? So there's no other options, but ours really, in that sense, or to get to transfer out and really use their associate's degree to their advantage for the BSN program. So yeah, that took a lot of coordination amongst all community colleges and all universities, I want to say, just to get on that same page for the curriculum.
Yeah. Now, you were talking a little bit earlier, mentioning like the pandemic and a lot of the restrictions and how things have changed. Like, so in your experience, like let's just say like advising wise, how have you seen things change over these last like 2-3 years?
Oh, well, I never been on Zoom prior to maybe one meeting. We had an ACADA meeting and it was on Zoom, and I was like, this is new. I didn't even know how to use my camera on my computer, or I even have a camera on my computer at work. So in that sense, it has changed a lot, where everything is via Zoom or virtual. But honestly, I feel for our advising, it has opened the door. We have been more accessible, right? We're getting more inquiries, which is not a bad thing at all. We want more information out there so students make the best decision for themselves. But it allows us to meet with students from the mainland, and allows us to meet with students from the outer islands, or even on the island. I don't know if you've been to Hawaii, Matt, but the traffic is horrible here. And now that we're all opened back up, the traffic is back to normal, where no one's going to come to KCC, to our campus from the other side of the island, and sit through half an hour or 45 minutes of traffic to meet with me for 5 minutes, So I feel like it is the accessibility has gotten so much better with COVID. But I think right now what we're seeing is the workforce has taken a huge hit. The students that graduated during that COVID period, we're hoping we would anticipate seeing them by now, right? Applying to colleges, applying to the workforce, even getting into or coming to the nursing or applying to the nursing program. We're not seeing as high numbers as we're used to, and I think I want to say it's because of COVID, and because maybe we really don't know. We try to speculate, but we really don't know what they're thinking, what those high school students and graduates are going through. But yeah, so that's one of the bigger effects of COVID that I'm seeing now, is that they're not coming to college, they're not working. I don't know what they're doing, but we hope to, we're slowly working with our state of Hawaii, with the high school systems, and really trying to push the career pathways to the students, get them more interested or expose them more to the different fields. And right now in Hawaii, we have such a high demand in the healthcare field, EMS, nursing, all the different levels. So they're in high demand. Now it's just trying to fill in those gaps and fill in the pukas or the holes, right? So we were trying to get those students in. And also kind of seeing a little bit of social differences with the students, a lot more distracted. I think a lot more students are able to multitask, right? They're so used to being on Zoom. They can also be on their, and I'm not gonna lie, I do the same. Like they can be on their phone and they can check, or we can check our emails while we're in a meeting. So now that we're back in person, like it's really trying to get their focus and being like, hey, you cannot do that kind of stuff, or you shouldn't do that kind of stuff. And so I think that's another, just getting used to that normalcy or whatever that was before. But I feel like for counseling at our campus, it's forever changed, where we're always going to offer the Zoom or that virtual portion of the advising side, at least, just so, because it has been so much more effective for us.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, I'm just laughing about the distraction part, because yeah, I mean, sometimes there'll be a Zoom meeting and I'm like, oh, when I get to that meeting, then I can also check this and send this email, and then I like, oh, what did they just say in the meeting, and get called on? I'm like, oh, what was I supposed to do?
Yes, so it kind of, it's, you got to think, we're not got to turn your brain back onto to real life or real time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your Nakata experience, because that's kind of how we met, is through Nakata. So what got you? When did you start kind of, getting involved in Nakata? Was it going to conferences, or tell us about that story?
So I'm gonna blame Sherry. I don't know. I don't want to bring her name up, but it's all Sherry's fault. So Sherry Souza, she was at the Nakata. She was Nakata chair where you are now, but she also was a health science counselor at KCC and EMS. So she kind of pulled me in, and she's like, "Hey." When I first started in Trio, it was my first year. She's like, "Hey, you want to help us out with this conference?" I was like, "Okay, sure." I needed to buff up my contract renewal and everything. So I was like, "Yes, I'll join." I think it was in 2018. When they were here last? 2018.
Oh, for the Region 9 and 10 conference.
Region 9
yeah,
10 conference.
2019.
2019. Okay,
yeah.
so maybe I was helping her before that. But I think in 2019, when we were here, I was already on the steering committee. Sherry pulled me in and she asked me to help out. I was like, okay, sure. I really had no idea what I was getting into. So I created the room schedule. So anybody came to that 2019 conference, I apologize. I had no idea what I was doing. I was doing it by myself. So I was like, okay, you can go here and then we'll cross the street. I don't even remember, we had to cross the street to go the other.
I thought it worked out. Like,
okay, great.
Because the way I looked at it is, you had so many rooms that you could use, but you had so many presentations. So it's like you had to be able to cross the street. And luckily, the street wasn't that long, and it was just
it was really,
walk
really
across. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. So she brought me in there, and then honestly, I had no idea what I was. As a liaison, I was a Hawaii liaison at the time. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing either. So I kind of just felt on the coattails of Sherry. I didn't know what Nakata was about. I had no idea. Even sitting in the steering committee, I'm gonna be honest, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I felt like I had nothing to contribute. I think, and also because I was such a junior faculty, I barely knew my role at KCC. So in the Trio department, so it was kind of like throw yourself into the fire. But it only took me 2 years to figure out really what my role was, and so I think being a part of Nakata, like not only now, but now after attending the conference and being in this position for about 2 years, 3 years, I think, because we changed it to the 2-year rotation. So for 3 years, I finally get it. I think I understand what Nakata is about, and I appreciate Nakata and like all the professional development opportunities. I was very fortunate to attend the Nakata conference that was online. I mean, it was last year's conference that they was offered online and in person. But even the online, I found valuable information, and I felt like it still helped guide advising for myself. And then now learning learning more about the talk story sessions,
Mhm.
what we guys are actually talking about, right? And what do we actually do as far as supporting other counselors or academic advisors in their roles, right? And even now that I'm a little bit more seasoned at the college, they're asking, or it was recommended to start presenting at national conferences. And I mean, it only took me 2 years to figure out. That's the way Nakata can help me, is like, not only can I write it down as something I did, but they can also help me create, and produce presentations to share our professional experiences and, work on that professional development side. So I think, yeah, I get it now. I get it. I think.
Yeah. But I think too, and I think it's kind of unfortunate, like with the pandemic, is like then everything kind of went virtual, which I think in a way kind of brought people together in a sense, because it's like, okay, now we have Zoom and this is going to be the thing now.
Mhm.
But there's also just that missing piece of just being in person, like, for
Absolutely.
example, one of the things that you were wanting to do was like go to a conference for our like region meeting and be able to like, let me meet the people within my region and my geographic area in a sense, and let's kind of have a breakout session. And it's almost like you finally got to do that in Portland. But in the prior years, yeah, it's like you had the pandemic or you only had the option for virtual. So you didn't really get that opportunity. So it's like you finally got it towards the end.
Right. Yes, at the end. But the conference, and I think, yeah, again, meeting everybody in person, that's kind of like what solidified of what we're really doing as a steering committee as well. I got to meet our Guam counterparts, and even though each one of us on the same island, we don't get to see each other. It's all through Zoom. And what we're finding, on our campus, is that we're missing that whole socialization. Like, how is it going? Talking story. We don't get to talk story through Zoom. And yeah, I think that part of that whole socialization we were missing. So it was good. It was a good experience.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the conference, talk about your experience in Portland.
Oh, well, it was cold.
Yeah,
Colder than
it's not a lot different weather.
Yeah, colder than I packed for. I thought it was in the 80s or 70s, and then we got there, it was in the 50s. And we're from Hawaii, so 70s is kind of cold, right? And then anything below
Well,
that,
and because the week before and the days leading up to
it
the
was
conference,
sunny.
it was sunny and warm.
Hot. Yes.
Yeah,
So
and then all of a sudden it
I
changed.
I packed like I was, gonna be like at home, but it was cold. It was so cold. But luckily, I mean, we had jackets. I brought boots. It was nice. It was good boot weather. We were happy about that. We don't get to wear boots that often here, and not, without sweating. So the experience itself was awesome. I've never been to Portland. I got to see so much that I don't get to see in Hawaii. But I guess the sessions that really stood out to me were currently our campus. We're trying to work on our transfer experience, and there was a session. I'm so sorry I didn't write it down, but there's a session about transfer and how your transfer process is working for your college. And we're given this worksheet or to do. And to me, that was the most valuable take back, because that's what the subcommittee that I signed myself up for was our transfer and transcript evaluation process, what we're doing here at the college at KCC. And so that related directly to what I needed for our counselors and our counseling profession here. And then there was a nursing one. I think is the last day. Like, I didn't get into nursing, so now what? And that's the line. That's our famous line that we hear all the time. So for that program, I mean, it was very helpful to see how other colleges and universities handle that same type of student, same situation. And even Matt, your presentation on the AAPI student, right? Like that's my people, I was saying, because that's the majority of our students that I work with is our Asian American Pacific Islander students. And even being on Oahu, where the minority is a Caucasian student, but our Pacific Island students are still struggling. So they, even though they're not the minority, and they, we're trying to incorporate them and, bring them into the college, they're still struggling, a struggling population that we're trying to work with, and we have programs for, and then we don't see often in nursing, but we're trying to get more students to apply or to become a part of it, become a part of our community. So I love Portland. It's great food, good breweries. Can't complain. It was a great time.
Yeah. And you mentioned the AAPI one, so I got to shout out Maria Domingo for
Yes,
that.
I'm sorry.
Because that was actually her idea, and I just got to help out with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I learned so much from that too. But yeah, I mean, she did such a phenomenal job preparing for it and then executing that presentation. So yeah, Maria, awesome job. And then with the Region 9 networking, you got to actually have that breakout session. So how did that go?
So I just, learned the needs. We spoke more directly to the University of Hawaii. We had a lot of participants that applied for the scholarship, for one of the presenter scholarships from UH Manoa that came. And so I wanted to ask them about that experience. Like, how hard was it? Was it easy? Because being on the steering committee, I got to review applications, and reading the applications, I'm like, oh my God, it seems like so much work, or there's a lot that has to go into it. It seems so difficult. But actually speaking with the participants who actually applied, they said it was easy. I wanted to ask them about the accessibility. Like, did you know about it? Did you hear about it? I think oftentimes, as being in our Region 9, we have so many different areas, or so many parts that we gotta look out for, that and we get so much emails on top of that they might lose our newsletter, our news blast, or or they might look over, accidentally delete the Nakata email, so they might miss it. And so I was thinking maybe there's a way we can connect them more with that. And so they said it was a great process. It was easy. They would do it again. And for sure, that was helpful. And speaking with Arlene and our other counterpart from Guam, they traveled 24 hours, 14 hours. And gained a day, lost a day, I forget. So for them to travel is hard enough, right? And so really focusing on like the big barrier, those types of barriers. I know, like, although online sessions are super helpful during conferences, time-wise. I remember Arlene would tell me from Guam, she would tell me, I had to wake up at 5 or 3. She went to a session at 3 in the morning. I was like, Arlene, that's horrible. I can't function at 3 in the morning, let alone just wake up to go to a conference for that. So knowing that, and knowing that in person is optimal, it kind of lit a fire under me to really push those scholarships and really get that funding out. For colleges, like, unfortunately for our college, we do not have the monies to be all Nakata members. So we have to front that, or we have to pay for our own membership. And so just maybe finding more ways on that financial barrier that's stopping us from traveling. Like, going to Vegas, now I think a lot of Hawaii people are willing to pay for that, and it's doable. But at the same time, the conference costs and the staying there, we have to get a car if we were going to go anywhere, or if we want to travel, type of thing. So keeping that in mind, it really fuels my intentions with the scholarships, and like how to promote it more and maybe push it more with our Hawaii membership and Hawaii members. Our region.
Right.
Members, sorry.
And since you mentioned Vegas, I'll just put a plug that the region conferences, there's plenty of them to choose from, but I'll be biased that the Region 8, 9, 10 conference, that'll be February 27th through March 1st. That will be in Vegas. So registration's open already, and you can also submit proposals. So I hope to see that there's a lot of them there. And I think we have some amazing conference co-chairs, especially within Region 9 with Janelle and Maria. So I'm looking forward to seeing how everything goes. But with the next few minutes that we have left for this, one of the other things in Portland that you were a part of was a grant initiative through the Stupski Foundation, that they were doing an advisor wellness grant, something new of kind of doing something grassroots effort where actually like us as advisors, in a sense, kind of got through this whole process of writing a grant, submitting it, attending a workshop. So can you talk a little bit more about the team that you're on with the Stupski grant?
Three of them, or two of them are counselors. The other three are faculty or staff for Native Hawaiian program. And so there are ideas. Right now, I don't know how it is at your campus, Matt, but at KCC, we are kind of going a reconstruction type of thing with our counselors. We're trying to figure out the best structure. We lost some key admin currently. And so right now, counselors are kind of floating around. We are segregated, or within our own departments, but we function. Our functionalities are pretty much the same, right? We're all counselors, and we're all doing this advising and trying to work with our students. But we have no stream or no line to report to, or clear defined line. So with the Stupski grant, just looking at our structure. Looking at our workloads after COVID, realizing that we did a lot as counselors. I mean, the students went through a lot, but I think the counselors went through a lot too, just because, again, went back to basic needs. We were just trying to make sure our students that weren't showing up to class had food at home. Right. And then transportation becomes another issue because the bus, we do have a bus line that runs through the entire island. That was down for a year almost. You know what I mean? It was very limited to who got to go on it and who went on it. And then, so it just created this extra barrier for our students, and then for us it created that another anxiety, and then learning everything about Zoom and Google, and oh my gosh, it was just a big learning curve that I think we did well. I mean, look at Nakata conference, we had a lot of people show up. So but I did hear during the conference that there's a lot of not retention, but for faculty or not returning counselors, right? I think in California, right, there's a PUCA, there's a need for counseling and academic advisors. And so, I think that just shows like how much mental and emotional and even like that added layer of anxiety that counselors took on during that pandemic is pretty rough, I think. And so for the fact that we made it through, kind of broken. So with our group, we are called the Hulihia project kind of thing, where it's a plant that is native to Hawaii, and it's sustainable. It's thriving, and so that was the idea behind that, is that we are a sustainable group. We might be bust up or we might be broken at sometimes, but we're still thriving. And so with the grant, we hope to reconnect, offer more opportunities for counselors to reconnect. Because again, most of our meetings are still being conducted through Zoom. I'm meeting a lot of students, pre-nursing students, through Zoom. So we're missing that socialization factor, right? And a chance for us to reconnect. So with the grant, it gives us more opportunities to reconnect. We have different phases of our grant that we're going to go through it, and it's all derived through Native Hawaiian teachings and lessons. Like Walina means welcome, and so with that phase, we hope to create a welcoming presence within your own office, right? So like so I don't want to. This is my office. Before I had boxes all over the place, and I moved in here from taking over another person's office. So really making a welcoming space which you want to be in, because the fact is that we spend majority of our time in our office, if not at our campus. So we want to make that a welcoming space. And then the various other areas where we're going to meet together. And at the very end, we hope to do not a ho'oponopono, which is to hash out all your stuff with your family, but really creating that ohana, or creating that family portion of it, and then using concepts from ho'oponopono just to kind of hash out any residual or any upset feelings that we may have regarding, it could be towards admin, which there might be, or towards each other, with the workload disparity we have. Some counselors are getting kicked in the shins, while other counselors they're still doing their job, but they didn't have as much strength as we did, right? And so I think there's that whole, up and back and forth, up and down, and not knowing and not being able to talk about it, right? Because we don't have that social. We can't just talk story after our meeting because it's all through Zoom. And so I think with the grant, hopefully we can create those connections and reconnect with each other, and have even one of our phases is to collaborate and work on professional development, the skills that we have, but also work with each other regarding student progress and maybe specific students that we share as a nursing counselor and a Native Hawaiian counselor, or a mental health counselor and a nursing student or something like that. So hopefully with the grant, we're looking forward to really implementing all these different phases, and just providing that space and that area and that time to reconnect. And we do have support from our admin, which is awesome. They see we're broken. They see that we need some time, and so they're giving it to us, or they're allowing us to take that time. I think they definitely see the need. And honestly, during the pandemic, I think it's shown a light on what we do as counselors and what we do as academic advisors, because I don't know, for our students, those students didn't have anybody to turn to, or didn't know what class to take next, or they couldn't come to campus and they dropped out. So we have a lot of students that struggled, who tried to do their best, but then we have those students that didn't even apply or come back. And so those are the students that we're most concerned about, because of a lot of them were Native Hawaiian students, Pacific Island students. And so that was a pretty big population that we want to focus on. So hopefully with all of us coming together, that'll happen.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, it's very, thought through, and so many different components to it. So, and if you're going to be able to help the students, like, you have to be able to help yourself first, and, you have to be able to have healed and have that wellness piece to it. So I look forward to hearing later how things end up going throughout the, this kind of 6 months to a year of implementing this. So congrats on the grant, and and you all have a great team, and I got to meet a couple of the other members in Portland. So yeah, you all are very passionate about what you do. So I think good things are going to happen from this grant.
Thank you. Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and with that, we have reached time. So Kristy, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've learned a lot more about you, and a lot of exciting things. And I know originally you were saying that I don't know if I have any stories to tell, and I think you've given a lot of great stories, a lot of great tidbits of knowledge with this. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Matt.